Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins All World, where we take the smallest coins and uncover the biggest surprises. Today, we're zooming in on a coin that most people overlook every single day, the 1990 United States Roosevelt 1 dime. That's right, a 10-cent coin that might be sitting in your pocket right now, but in rare cases, could actually be worth a small fortune. Stick around, because we're diving into the story, secrets, and shocking value of the 1990 Roosevelt dime. Now let's set the scene. The year is 1990. The Berlin Wall had just come down. Nelson Mandela was released from prison. Technology was changing fast, with computers becoming a part of everyday life. And while all of this was unfolding across the world, in the United States Mint, a coin was quietly being produced that would go on to become part of millions of transactions, but also part of some collectors' wildest dreams. That coin was the Roosevelt dime. This 10-cent piece features the strong, noble profile of Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse. Designed by John R. Sinek, the portrait has remained largely unchanged since 1946, the year after Roosevelt's passing. Above the head of America's 32nd president are the words, Liberty. To the left, you'll see the motto, In God We Trust, and to the right, the date, 1990. The reverse of the dime is a clean, elegant design, a torch in the center symbolizing liberty, flanked by an olive branch on the left for peace, and an oak branch on the right for strength and independence. Surrounding these are the inscriptions, United States of America, E pluribus unum, and the denomination, 1 dime. Now, you might be thinking, what could possibly make this everyday coin so interesting? Well, here's the twist. While most Roosevelt dimes from 1990 are completely ordinary, there are some rare exceptions that collectors absolutely go crazy for. These are the dimes with a story, dimes that were struck with unusual errors, rare minting variations, or preserved in perfect condition. Let's talk mintmarks. In 1990, the Roosevelt dime was minted in 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Philadelphia had no mintmark, Denver coins carried a small D, and proof coins from San Francisco had an S mintmark. Now here's where it gets interesting. Some rare proof dimes from the San Francisco Mint were accidentally released without a mintmark. These so-called no S dimes are incredibly rare and valuable. Only a few are known to exist. They were intended to be perfect, polished examples for collectors, but due to a minting oversight, the S was never added to the die. Another highly sought-after feature is the coin's condition. Dimes that are graded MS 67 or higher by professional grading services, meaning they're in nearly flawless, mint state condition, are extremely rare. Most coins in circulation get scuffed, worn, or damaged over time. But finding one that's survived in pristine shape for more than 30 years? That's something special. So, what should you be looking for? First, check for the mintmark. If you find a 1990 Roosevelt dime with no mintmark where there should be one, especially if it's a proof coin, you might be looking at a major rarity. Second, look at the coin's condition. Does it shine? Are the details sharp? Is there any damage? If your dime looks like it just came off the press yesterday, it might be worth getting professionally graded. Finally, keep an eye out for unusual features like doubling in the letters or numbers, off-center strikes, or odd planchet defects. These kinds of mint errors can make a huge difference in value. So why is the 1990 Roosevelt dime still talked about today? Because once in a while, one of these coins turns up in a collection, at a flea market, or even in pocket change, and it sends shockwaves through the collecting world. It reminds us that valuable coins aren't always gold or silver. Sometimes, the ones worth the most look like nothing more than loose change. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. What is the highest price ever paid for a 1990 Roosevelt dime? One exceptional example, flawless in condition and nearly impossible to find, was sold to a private collector for an astonishing amount. That coin changed hands for $63,000. Yes, you heard that right. $63,000 for a 10-cent coin. So before you toss that next dime into a vending machine or a tip jar, take a closer look. You never know what story it might tell, or what value it might hold. Today's video is all about a dime. Yes, you heard that right, a 10-cent coin. But not just any dime. We're talking about the 1975 Roosevelt 1 dime from the United States of America. A coin so common, so small, so easy to ignore, yet one rare version of it shook the world of collectors and sold for a truly life-changing amount. Let's dive into the history, the mysteries, and the shocking value behind the 1975 Roosevelt dime. The Roosevelt dime first entered circulation in 1946, honoring President Franklin D. Roosevelt just 1 year after his death. He wasn't just a revered leader, he also played a major role in founding the March of Dimes, which helped combat polio, a cause close to his heart and his body, having suffered from the disease himself. That's why his face is on this coin. Not just as a political icon, but as a symbol of resilience, compassion, and public health. Now, fast forward to 1975. The United States is nearing its bicentennial. Patriotism is high, the economy is shifting, and in the mints of Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, tens of millions of Roosevelt dimes are being struck. These coins were meant to be simple tools of everyday commerce, small, light, and easy to use. Nobody expected that anything remarkable would come from them, but something did. Most 1975 Roosevelt dimes are completely ordinary. You can find them in your change, in old jars, in drawers. But a few, an incredibly rare few, are legendary. So let's talk design. On the obverse, or front, we see Roosevelt's iconic profile. He's facing left, with the word Liberty stretching along the left edge of the coin. Beneath his chin, the national motto, "In God We Trust," sits firmly, and to the right of the portrait is the date, 1975. A small mint mark may appear just above the date, either a D for Denver or none at all for Philadelphia. Meanwhile, proof coins struck in San Francisco feature an S. The reverse shows the ever-familiar symbols, the Torch of Liberty in the center, flanked by an olive branch on one side and an oak branch on the other, peace and strength, side by side. The inscriptions, United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 1 dime, circle the back. But what makes the 1975 Roosevelt dime so special? Here's where it gets exciting. In 1975, the U.S. Mint was preparing for a major event, the upcoming bicentennial year. For quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins, they produced special 1976 bicentennial designs. But for dimes, no bicentennial version was made. So, all dimes from 1975 and 1976 retained the same standard design. However, a mistake happened. A tiny number of 1,975 proof dimes were struck at the San Francisco Mint without their S mint mark. These are known today as the 1975 No S proof Roosevelt dimes, and they are among the rarest and most valuable modern coins in American history. Imagine this, a proof coin, struck in the highest possible quality, with a mirror-like surface and razor-sharp details, but missing the most important clue about where it was made. That absence of the S mint mark turns it into an incredibly valuable error, one that shouldn't exist at all. To this day, only a couple of verified examples of the 1975 No S Roosevelt dime have ever surfaced. That's right. Only a handful. Which makes it a dream find for collectors across the globe. But mint mark errors aren't the only thing to look for. Condition matters a lot. Coins that are kept in pristine, uncirculated condition, especially those graded MS 67 or higher, can sell for premium prices. Even if your 1975 Roosevelt dime has a mint mark, if it's a flawless specimen with no wear, bold details, and that bright original luster, it could be a treasure hiding in plain sight. There are also other errors to look out for: off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, or weakly struck designs. All of these minting flaws can add significant value, especially if they're dramatic and easy to see with the naked eye. So, how do you find out if your dime is worth something? Start by checking the mint mark, or absence of it. Next, look closely at the coin's condition. If it looks near perfect, it may be worth having it professionally graded. A certified high-grade error coin can transform a 10-cent piece into a 5-figure gem, and if you ever come across a proof 1975 dime that lacks the S mint mark, don't spend it. Don't even clean it. That's the kind of coin that ends up in a high-end auction house with collectors lined up, bidding with their hearts racing, which brings us to the big question: how much can a 1975 Roosevelt dime actually be worth? Well, while most are worth only face value, one nearly perfect example of the 1975 no-S proof dime, because of its unmatched rarity and condition, was sold for a jaw-dropping amount. The final price? $72,000. Yes, you heard that right. $72,000 for a coin that originally cost 10 cents to make. So the next time you're going through your change, remember this story. That small silver coin might be more than just spare change, it could be your ticket to a huge payday. Today, we're diving into the story of the 1980 Roosevelt 1 dime, a coin that may seem completely ordinary at first glance, but hides a thrilling secret. Get ready, because the world of coin collecting is full of surprises, and this one could be in your pocket right now. Let's begin with the basics. The Roosevelt dime was introduced in 1946, shortly after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. His image was chosen not just to honor his legacy as a four-term president, but also for his tireless efforts in fighting polio and his founding role in the March of Dimes campaign. By 1980, the Roosevelt dime had become a staple of American currency. It was struck by three mints: Philadelphia, with no mint mark at the time, Denver, marked with AD, and San Francisco, which produced proof coins for collectors and marked them with an S. Now, let's talk design. On the front, or obverse, you'll find Roosevelt's profile facing left. You'll see the word Liberty proudly displayed to the left, and just below his chin, the national motto, "In God We Trust." To the right is the year, 1980. A mint mark may be visible just above the date, depending on where the coin was made. On the reverse side, you'll see a torch in the center, flanked by an olive branch on the left, representing peace, and an oak branch on the right, symbolizing strength. Around the edge are the inscriptions: United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 1 dime. Millions of these coins were made. They passed through vending machines, bus fare boxes, coffee shop counters, and children's piggy banks. Most were forgotten. But a few, just a few, are now worth a fortune. So, what makes a 1980 Roosevelt dime valuable? Let's start with condition. Coins that have been kept in pristine, uncirculated condition, known in the collecting world as mint state, MS, can bring in impressive prices. If a coin is graded MS 67 or higher by a professional grading service, it becomes part of a very small group of top-quality examples. The fewer the imperfections, the higher the price, but there's more. Error coins are where things get really exciting. In 1980, like any other year, mistakes happened at the mint. Coins were struck off-center, double-struck, or even produced with missing elements like the mint mark. One particularly famous type of valuable error is the no mint mark proof coin, especially if it was supposed to have one. Now here's where things get interesting. Proof dimes from the San Francisco Mint are expected to carry an S mint mark. But due to a mishap during the minting process, a few proof coins were struck without this identifying mark. These are known as no-S proof dimes, and they are incredibly rare. Though the best-known no-S dimes are from other years, collectors still hunt for unusual errors from 1980, including possible no-mint mark varieties or misstrikes that are extremely rare and hard to spot. If one of these unique versions surfaces and it's in perfect or near-perfect condition, it can send collectors into a bidding frenzy, and let's not forget about full bands. That's right. On the reverse side of the dime, the torch has bands that wrap around it. If those bands are fully visible and sharply struck, the coin gets a FB designation, full bands. It may sound minor, but collectors care about details like this, and a full bands designation can significantly increase a coin's value. So how can you tell if your 1980 Roosevelt dime is a rare one? Here's what to look for: is the coin uncirculated, with no wear and sharp detail? Does it have an unusual error, such as a missing mint mark or off-center strike? Is it a proof coin that looks especially glossy or mirror-like? Do the torch bands on the reverse appear clean and fully defined? If you answered yes to any of these questions, your dime might be worth more than just pocket change. A lot more. And now we reach the most exciting part of today's video. You've been patient, and it's time for the big reveal. there is one known version of the 1980 Roosevelt dime, struck in exceptionally rare condition with a stunning error, that sold for a record-breaking price at auction. That price was an unbelievable $60,000, yes, 10 cents, turned into $60,000. It's not a myth. It's not a dream. It's real, and it's a reminder that even the smallest coins can hold some of the biggest surprises. So the next time you're handed a dime in your change, take a second look. It might just be your lucky day. Today, we're about to dive deep into one of the most underestimated coins in your pocket, the 2005 Roosevelt 1 dime. It might be tiny in size, but its story is anything but small. And if you're lucky enough to own a rare variation of this coin, you might just be holding onto a miniature treasure. Let's start with a little history. The Roosevelt dime series began back in 1946, shortly after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. His portrait replaced the Mercury design as a tribute to his leadership during the Great Depression and World War II, and to honor his personal fight against polio. Since then, the Roosevelt dime has become one of the longest-running coin series in U.S. history. Now, fast forward to 2005. Over half a century later, the design has remained mostly unchanged. On the obverse, Roosevelt's left-facing profile dominates the center. Above his head is the word Liberty, while just beneath his chin you'll find the national motto, "In God We Trust." On the right-hand side, the year, 2005, is clearly marked, along with a small mint mark that tells you where the coin was made: Philadelphia, P, Denver, D, or San Francisco, S. On the reverse side, the symbolism continues. A torch stands tall in the center, representing liberty. On the left, an olive branch for peace. On the right, an oak branch for strength and independence. The inscriptions, United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 1 dime, frame the image, classic and unmistakably American. Now here's where things get interesting. Millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes were minted in 2005. They were mass-produced for everyday use, which makes finding a valuable one a little like finding a needle in a haystack. But sometimes, that 1 in a million coin does exist, and collectors are willing to pay a fortune for it. What makes the 2005 dime valuable? It all comes down to a few key factors: mint errors, exceptional condition, and rarity. Let's talk about mint errors first. Every year, the U.S. Mint produces billions of coins, and although their quality control is strict, mistakes still happen. A misaligned die, a double strike, an off-center image, or even a missing mint mark can make a coin stand out to collectors. In the case of the 2005 Roosevelt dime, certain off-metal strikes and errors involving missing clad layers have turned common coins into rare finds. Next, there's condition. Coins that have never been circulated, meaning they've never passed through a vending machine or someone's hands, are known as uncirculated, and are graded on a scale up to 70. A coin graded MS 68 or higher is exceptionally rare. Add in a perfect strike and sharp details like full bands on the torch, and you're looking at a dime that collectors will fight over. Proof coins also play a big role here. The San Francisco Mint produces proof versions of the Roosevelt dime every year, which are made specifically for collectors. They're struck using special dies and polished blanks, resulting in a mirror-like finish and sharp detail. If you find a 2005 proof dime with a rare error, such as a missing S mint mark, it could be worth far more than you expect. Another factor is the coin's metal composition. While most modern dimes are made of a copper core with a nickel coating, occasionally an error occurs where a dime is struck on the wrong metal planchet, like a penny's copper blank or even a foreign coin blank. These unusual off-metal errors are incredibly rare and highly sought after. Now, here's something you don't hear every day. In the world of high-end coin auctions, a single dime can become the star of the show. If a 2005 Roosevelt dime is found in near-perfect condition with an extremely rare error, especially if it has been professionally authenticated and graded by a top service like PCGS or NGC, it can command an eye-watering price. And you might be wondering, how much could that be? Well, brace yourself, because this next part is why you should never ignore the small coins in your pocket. Point 1: incredibly rare 2005 Roosevelt dime, featuring an ultra-scarce minting error and preserved in pristine Condition, was once sold to a private collector for an unbelievable $52,000, yes, you heard that right. A 10-cent coin sold for $52,000. That's the magic of numismatics. Sometimes, what looks like a worthless piece of change is actually a hidden gem, waiting to be discovered by someone with a keen eye. So before you toss that next dime into the coin jar, give it a closer look. Who knows? You might be holding the next small coin with a big story. It's not just any dime, though. It's a Roosevelt 1 dime from 1987. You might think it's worth only 10 cents, after all, that's what it's supposed to be. But what if I told you that very same dime could potentially be worth much, much more? It may be hard to believe, but when it comes to coins, especially rare ones, their value can skyrocket depending on factors like condition, rarity, and even tiny minting errors. So, let's take a deep dive into the world of the Roosevelt 1 dime, particularly the 1987 edition, and explore what makes this coin so special and valuable. The Roosevelt dime series has been in circulation since 1946, and it all started as a tribute to Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States. After his death in 1945, Congress authorized the design of a new dime bearing his likeness. The coin has remained largely unchanged over the years, with Roosevelt's profile gracing the obverse, front, and symbols of liberty, peace, and strength adorning the reverse, back. Fast forward to 1987, and we see the same classic design, Roosevelt's left-facing bust, the word liberty above, and the motto, "In God We Trust," beneath. The date, 1987, is inscribed to the right of Roosevelt's image, with the mint mark either D for Denver, P for Philadelphia, or S for San Francisco, just below. On the reverse, we still have the torch, olive branch, and oak branch, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength, but let's take a moment to really understand what sets the 1987 Roosevelt dime apart. Why is it more than just a dime in your pocket? Well, there are a few key factors to consider when determining a coin's value. While most of these dimes were minted for everyday circulation, some rare errors or special conditions can make a 1987 dime extraordinarily valuable. One factor that can drastically increase the value of a coin is its condition. Coins that have been circulated, meaning they've passed through people's hands, often suffer from wear and tear. Over time, the details of the coin can become smudged or scratched, diminishing its appeal to collectors. However, if you're lucky enough to find a 1987 dime in pristine, uncirculated condition, its value immediately jumps. Now, let's talk about something even more exciting: coin errors. Sometimes, in the production process, something goes wrong. A coin could be struck on the wrong planchet, the metal blank the coin is made from, or the die could have been misaligned, causing a double strike. These errors are incredibly rare, and collectors will often pay top dollar for a coin that has an interesting or unusual minting mistake. For the 1987 Roosevelt dime, some notable errors include double strikes or die cracks. A double strike happens when a coin is struck twice, either on the same spot or slightly misaligned, creating a blurry or doubled image. A die crack, on the other hand, occurs when the die used to strike the coin begins to break or crack, leaving a line or mark on the coin's surface. These errors may seem small, but they can make a huge difference in a coin's value. In addition to errors, certain special editions of the 1987 dime, such as proof coins, are more sought after. Proof coins are specially minted for collectors. They are struck multiple times to ensure a sharp, mirror-like finish, and they're often made in limited numbers. If you happen to have a 1987 proof dime in perfect condition, it could fetch a higher price compared to a standard circulated dime. Another factor to consider is the coin's mintage numbers. The United States Mint produces millions of dimes each year, and the 1987 edition was no exception. However, the number of coins minted doesn't always determine their value. The rarity of certain mint marks, such as the S mint mark from the San Francisco Mint, or the quality of the strike can create demand among collectors, driving up prices. Now, we know that a regular 1987 Roosevelt dime may not be worth much more than its face value of 10 cents. But what about the rare, high-quality specimens with errors or other special features? That's where the big money comes in. Point one of the most exciting aspects of numismatics, the study and collection of coins, is that the value of certain coins can appreciate dramatically over time. A coin that once circulated at face value can become a highly sought-after collector's item. And the 1987 Roosevelt dime, with the right combination of condition, error, and rarity, could sell for an impressive price at auction. For example, a near-perfect 1987 Roosevelt dime that has been graded as MS-67, mint state, or higher by a reputable grading service like the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, is worth far more than the typical dime you find in circulation. And in the world of rare coin auctions, one such 1987 Roosevelt dime, graded MS-67 with a notable error, fetched an eye-popping sum, $52,000, yes, you read that correctly. A single dime, valued at only 10 cents when it was first released, sold for $52,000 due to its exceptional condition and rare minting flaw. So, the next time you reach into your pocket and pull out a 1987 Roosevelt dime, take a moment to inspect it closely. You might just have a hidden treasure on your hands, and if it's in perfect condition or contains a rare error, you could be holding something worth more than you ever imagined. Coins like these prove that there's much more to the world of numismatics than meets the eye. Every coin has a story to tell, and sometimes, that story can lead to a windfall. As always, if you enjoy learning about the fascinating world of coins, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another deep dive into the world of coin collecting. Thanks for watching, and remember, every coin could be the start of a treasure hunt.